All right, so I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you some questions,
Okay.
and all you have to do is just kind of look me in the face
Okay.
and answer those questions. Obviously, I'm behind the camera for a reason.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, you have the easier job.
Yeah, well, I mean, from the standpoint of you looking at the camera.
Yeah,
'Cause
then
otherwise
I
it
can
looks
talk
like-
to you rather than
Right.
roaming around the room.
Right,
Yeah,
yep.
true.
Okay, more than likely, I may do a few where I have you look at me over there. So I have you turn your body and look at me over there.
Okay.
So we can actually do changes and transitions. It just makes it flow better. It doesn't feel like there's just somebody standing there talking.
Yeah, yeah.
So we do that. So
Okay.
I may have you move around. Oh, turn that down. I may have you move around back and forth, that type of thing for different times.
Okay,
I may ask the same question twice to do that.
okay.
Okay? So,
All
ready?
right. I'll do my best.
You're going to do just fine. I'm telling you,
Well,
seriously.
Madge
if
said she had to
Madge-
do it 3 times. I don't want to do it 3 times.
Nope, nope.
Once
Well,
a
Madge
week.
was another issue of my software.
Okay. It wasn't her.
It wasn't her. She just likes attention.
Mhm.
So, you
Well,
think?
I don't. I
Oh,
don't.
yeah.
So there we go.
Yep, okay. All right. So tell me, what was the initial contact you had with Gilead, and why did you want to volunteer?
Well, I think the first contact that I had was when my mom passed away, and I had Megan Brown in class, and of course Dave and Teresa went to church, so I knew the Browns, but Megan, being in class with me, knowing my mom passed away, I think must have shared with her mother, and then I got a card from Teresa, just, expressing her thoughts and sympathy, and I thought that's really nice. Well, then I continued to get cards. And it then was from not just Teresa, but from Gilead. And I really appreciated that, it wasn't just that I had a student in class and this is her mother. It was an organization that was reaching out and sharing. That was how it all got started.
Okay. And so the very first thing you did when you volunteered was what?
I was asked to do Christmas calls. And so I started out just at the season of the holiday and doing Christmas calls.
So from there, what transitioned you? How did that all come about to become telephone encourager?
I think someone noted my gift of gab and realized that that was something that I did, and I loved having the opportunity to talk to people. So I was asked, well, would you consider being a regular phone encourager and coming once a week versus just the holiday? And I was retired at that time, and it's like, well, sure, that would be great. So that's how that got started.
So take just a minute and introduce yourself and tell others what your role here is at Gilead.
So I am Debbie DeLong, and as a Gilead volunteer at Gilead Ministries, I get to be a phone encourager.
What does that look like on a weekly basis?
Coming once a week to here to the office, interacting with not only who I will get to on the phone, but I love just the camaraderie and the feel of being in this dwelling, in this place, in this building, and having someone that could pray for me if I wanted it, who will pray for me when I'm done calling. I often leave notes just saying, I'm concerned about this person, or can I have an address, and just being here and feeling like this ministry is serving our community, not just Grant County, but farther out, and it's just a really wonderful place to spend 2 hours every week, or 2 hours plus every week.
Okay. So describe for me the first time you sat down and made phone calls, and tell me what things were going through your mind and how did it feel doing that the very first time?
Okay. Well, before I could start on my own and solo, I had to be trained. And I didn't really even know what that was really going to be like. So at that point, we went into the area and, show how to use the phone and the computer and all of that. And I listened to the regular phone caller, and then I was to mimic that. And I got really nervous because it's like, okay, am I going to say the right things? And I thought, well, I know how to respond to whoever I call and what their need is, or whatever. And I was reminded, you're not a doctor, so you don't have to give medical advice. Matter of fact, that's not what your role is. And then I was told by someone very wise that I needed to remember to be a better listener than speaker. And that is harder for me because I want to talk. So that's been my challenge. And as I have remember to stop and really listen to what they're saying. God uses that quiet time, which used to seem awkward, to then impress upon me what they're really saying. Where's their heart? What do they need? And so it went from being kind of uncomfortable and a choppy call, I think, initially, to now doing it for a couple years, I think, a flow of just a conversation with these beloved friends that I only get to meet through the phone.
So, have you had an opportunity to meet any of the people you talked to on the phone face to face yet?
I have, and that is so exciting. Yes,
Okay,
I
so
have.
tell me about an experience where you got to meet someone. What was going on? How did you get to meet them?
Okay. Well, I'll tell you about the first one. And I don't know if I can share names or not.
Just
so
first name.
Okay. So I had decided to go meet Barb. I knew where Barb was at that point. So I got some flowers and a little card, and I went to where she was, and I went to her room, and as soon as we heard each other's voice, we knew who each other was, and it was just so fun to now see a face to this voice. And so now when we talk on the phone, we are friends because we know what each other looks like. So that was really, really fun. And we reflect back to that about, well, remember when you came to visit or that first time? And that's fun. So now I can actually say I could walk down the street and see you and know you. Whereas before it was always, I would say, well, if I hear your voice, I'll know who you are. So yeah.
Cool. Yep. So tell me what has been the toughest phone call or phone calls. What are the toughest, or has there been one specific one you can think of that was really tough?
I think this particular person that I called, I'd not called him before, and I knew from the write-up on the computer on the screen enough to know he was struggling with, I think, some emotional, physical, medical issues. So there was a lot on his plate, and not to pry into what those might be, but to allow him to open up to share with me. That was difficult just to get a footing, but he was easy to talk to. He was a little, at first I think, cautious. He didn't know me, I didn't know him. He knew the ministry. But then he shared enough things as we talked that I just kept trying to put myself in that place, and I thought, I don't even know how to help him. I don't even know what to say. So we finally just prayed, which silly, we finally prayed, but to just ask God's hand in all of that. But as I hung up, I just felt really almost grieving because of all that this particular person was going through, and it seemed like a lot of it was out of his control. And how do you help this person other than, again, be a listening ear? I don't have advice, but I can listen. And I shared that with him. You can call Gilead anytime. You can reach out to us and let us pray for you or let us help you. But that was really difficult, and I don't know. I didn't get to talk to him again, so I don't know how he is. But that was hard. That was a hard one.
So when you're here on Mondays, you're here for a couple of hours. How many individuals do you normally get to talk to, and talk to about the days when it's more and less? Talk about that. Talk about the pace that you keep while you're here.
Okay. Well, that's a funny question because Madge always is, a lot of times is in there. So she and I, she and I talk, and I'll say, Madge, in my 2 hours, I talked to 8 people. That was probably my lowest number, 8 people. And I would look back, and some other caller had talked to 23 people, and that was in 2 hours. So I would say, I don't know, and she'd say, Debbie, it isn't how many, it is not quantity, it's quality, and that has encouraged me. So I don't try to monitor how many anymore as much as try to be open with this person. Some of those people, I think that I'm the only person that they talk to, whether it's that day or that week, I don't know. And then as we've gotten to know each other, we, of course, reflect back on last week's conversation or what's going on in their life. So probably 8 has been the lowest number. But now during Christmas calls, I have made up to 69 calls in a 2-hour shift. But that was me just kind of reading a script. So when I'm really into a conversation, yeah, 15, 16 calls usually in my 2 hours, which isn't maybe a lot, but for me that's quantity. Quality.
So give me 1 or 2 stories of, I want to say blow your socks off kind of day. Kind of one of those things you got done, you couldn't believe how good you felt afterwards, how good the conversation went. Talking about 1 or 2 stories that you just have had this high level of connection, high level of encouragement.
Well, I'll tell the first one that comes to my mind was when I first started calling. And it was a gentleman that I had talked to several times, knew a little bit about him. And at the end, I always ask, do you have anything that I can pray for, or what are your needs? And he had shared. And then he goes, well, Debbie, how can I pray for you? That really hit me. I thought I was the one that was calling to encourage. And for him to ask me, how can I pray for you? It took me back, and I said, well, I don't know, let me think a bit. And it was really encouraging me that this could be a two-way, that it wasn't just me calling and listening to them and them sharing, but that he asked me. That was really, that was impactful. A funny one was I called one time, and this person answered, and he was on the job site, and he told me right away. He said, well, I'm working today, but I saw who was calling. It was Gilead, so I chose to answer the phone. And as we talked, it was one of my former students, and I had had his son later, and there were some bumps in the road there, but we connected on so many different levels. And when we hung up, he called me by my teacher name and said, well, I just had to talk to you. And it was just really, that was a neat connection that I normally wouldn't have had necessarily with a student, let alone have had that student's son in class. So that was fun. I have a lot of knock your socks off conversations, I think, just because of feeling like God is in this ministry, and I never know what the conversation is going to be, who has what need, but I feel like they all are valuable conversations, whether it's a short one or a long one. And I've learned that even a phone message that I left, sometimes they'll say, I got your message and I really appreciated you thinking of me. So I've learned that every call is a God's call, and it isn't my words that matter. It's for him to use that time.
So if someone was to ask you, why do you think I should think about volunteering at Gilead? What kind of things would you do that would help them make a decision to volunteer at Gilead?
Well, volunteering anywhere needs to be something that comes from your heart. And I think if you were wondering if Gilead is a fit for you as a volunteer, you should come here and see what's the heart of this ministry. And I'll tell you what it is. It's people. It's the people in this community that need to know somebody else cares. And that somebody else that cares, you and I know, is God. But we have to be the hands and feet, and we have to bring that to them, or pray with them, as they already know God, but they need us to come. So if they were considering to come to Gilead and say, why should I be a volunteer? Well, where is your heart? If your heart is, how can God use me with whatever talent you have? For me, it's talking. But for somebody else, it might be the mail. It might be visiting. If when you get done with it, you felt better than you did before you came, that's a fit for you.
Any last things about what you do that you'd like to share that I've not asked about?
Well, I'm going to share that I'm glad that people see things in me that can be used for others that I don't see in myself, and encourage me to use those. So I don't think of talking to somebody on the phone as being a gift. As a matter of fact, my husband thinks my talking is a curse. But I've learned that that's something I love to do, and it seems to be a blessing to others.
Right.